Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
A good Sunday morning. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right, John Hancock.
Top of the morning.
On the left, Michael Kelley.
Good morning.
I'm Andy Banker. Let's get to it. On the agenda, Festus voters, clean house, right after the city council advances a data center project. After President Trump's profanity-laced Easter Sunday threats against Iran, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzer says Mr. Trump is mentally unstable, and Pritzer is calling on the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove the president from office. Less dysfunction means more laws passing through the Missouri legislature, and there was a big one this past week, a new juvenile crime crackdown that should have a big impact on the city of St. Louis. And our quote of the week is from First Lady Melania Trump. If her husband wants to keep the Epstein files out of the headlines, well, she has other ideas. But we begin with a sudden 180-degree turn for St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer, who had called for a spirit of cooperation with the state takeover of the city police department, and she spoke against spending millions of dollars on lawsuits for what amounted to a political spectacle. Well, now she and the city of St. Louis filed suit Thursday, asking the courts to return control of the police department back to the city.
Currently put forth by the Board of Police Commissioners would force the city to make massive layoffs and drastic budget cuts.
This is simple. It's a discussion about how to fund public safety under state law. This issue will now properly be decided in the courtroom, a process we respect.
The mayor was referring to the proposed budget from the new Board of Police Commissioners appointed by Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe. That budget, $250 million for the upcoming year. The mayor has gone from saying the city could only afford roughly $200 million to upping that to about 224, 225, that neighborhood now. She is a member of the police board, the only member not appointed by the governor. Rather than continue negotiating, she's going to court to fight an effort to hire more officers for a department that is woefully understaffed, with slow or no response to calls from residents and pervasive lawlessness, like reckless driving and gunfire on the streets. John and Michael, is this the way to get more police officers on the streets of St. Louis?
Sure doesn't seem it to me to be having this type of struggle. The mayor acquiesced to the fact that the governor who ran on this issue was going to take over the police department. What's unfortunate to me now is we're having lawsuits and political shenanigans happening between a police board and a mayor, both who I think ultimately have the same objective, which is to make the city safer. There's one person who's not participating in this conversation, and that's the governor who ran on this issue. And I looked at him as the adult in this room. It's defined in statute how much money should be spent on the police department, and the board is proper and right in going forward with it. At the same time, this mayor is in a perplexing situation of lack of resources, and what we really need is some adult leadership, and the governor should be playing that role.
John, how do you see it?
This is a stunt. It was a stunt when Megan Green was going to sue the police board. It's a stunt now. Look, there is
Do you
no...
expect the city to win?
No.
The lawsuit?
No, they're not going to win the lawsuit. Look, the single biggest problem in St. Louis, we've been talking about it for years now right here, is public safety. And what has happened is we had a mayor and a president of the board back when Tashara Jones was mayor that were actively defunding that police department. We were losing officers. We weren't adding officers to the mix. The only way to retain and recruit new officers is you got to pay them. And that's what this board is saying. It's what the governor instructed them to do. You got to pay them. And if this is truly the top priority, then you've got to make room to fund that top priority. I think it is the top priority.
Is there an argument to be made? Apparently the city has portions of its budget that it can't spend because it can't hire enough people to work other jobs, like in the refuse department to pick up garbage. We're not fully staffed anywhere. So when she says it's going to be catastrophic and force massive layoffs, is that accurate?
I'm not sure what is accurate. We do know that state statute says how much money is supposed to go into the police department, and I think that's what the board is fighting for. This is not helpful. We're only 6 to 9 months into this experiment of the state taking back over, and here we are in court. When these people are having a food fight, they should be working together, and the governor who ran on this issue, again, should be in that room with them showing leadership.
Can't you be for hiring more cops, like the mayor says she is, without a $250 million budget?
Well, the problem
which
isn't
the
hiring
city
the more
can't afford?
cops, it's retaining the police officer you have now. Now, I'll tell you this, the morale of that police department is far better now under this board than it was before. That's a fact. Ask any cop on the street. But, you know, these negotiations seem to me like they were headed in the right direction. 250, the board says, 200, the mayor says, they're coming up at 225. I mean, that was the right direction. They could have, I think, made a deal on this thing.
And isn't the real issue whether the state can tell the city how to spend its money?
Well,
and whether that should be legal?
That's just the law. It can do that, and it's in state statute. The big change that she's trying to fight now is the fact that the legislature took over a vote of the people inside the city of St. Louis, and while that seems unjust that they would be able to overturn the vote of the people, it's their prerogative as the state.
The mayor's move comes just days after city voters overwhelmingly approved paying 1% of their income to the city for 5 more years. Proposition E, the city's earnings tax, was approved with a whopping 85% of the vote, just 15% voting no, in a city with a poor record of serving its residents, from a lack of policing to shoddy street conditions, snow removal, and garbage pickup. What are we to take away from this, John?
Well, a couple of things. You can't fund city government without the earnings tax, and nobody's ever found a way to replace it. It ought to be replaced. But this vote is interesting to me, and what I know to be true is that these low turnout elections in the city of St. Louis, the disproportionate number of city employees who vote faithfully is very high, and teachers, city employees and teachers. And not a whole lot of regular rank and file. I don't know what the turnout was here, 12%, something like that. It was ridiculously low. But part of that 85% is reflective of the fact that those are city employees that are voting.
Michael?
I'm a city resident. I'm not a city employee. I'd like to see the earnings tax go away. I also see that our city is crumbling. We can barely pick up the trash. We got pipes that are bursting everywhere. Roads aren't getting paved. Starving city government is not going to make things better. And I think that's what city voters came out and did. Not only city employees, but those of us who live in the city who want this city to operate. Sure, we'd all like to see the earnings tax go away. And I think if we were flush with cash, you'd see voters like myself voting for it. But at the end of the day, I want basic services, and right now there's no replacement for that revenue.
The data center debate proves to be costly to members of the Festus City Council in Tuesday's elections, just after the council had advanced the data center project. All 4 incumbents seeking re-election suffered landslide defeats.
We're running the recall. We want to clean house, get rid of this mess that started this whole thing.
We're going to be part of this opportunity to affect some change and take our city in a little bit different direction. We're not rebels. We're not going to be yelling at people.
John mentioned the turnout in the city. I mean, pretty much everywhere, municipal election voter turnout is pretty low.
Yeah.
But this time in Festus, it was a lot higher than normal. 8 days earlier, John, the council had advanced a massive $6 billion, 360-acre data center project for Festus, which we've talked about a lot on this program. What do you make of the voter response?
Not surprised. You know, there's a whole lot of not in my backyard going on out there, and this is new. I think the public is generally scared of artificial intelligence. But look, these facilities are going to be built. They will be built. The question is, do we want any of them built in Missouri? The massive amounts of local revenue flows in. People want their property taxes cut. Here's a good way to do it. You know, but this is a sign and a signal to all these other communities out there that are considering these data centers that, oh, you know, this may cost me my job. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about water usage and so forth, electricity rates. There's a lot of misinformation out there. This is the future of the world economy. We're either going to get on board with it or let it pass us by.
Power to the people?
Well, absolutely. And I think that this election is a product of bad timing. I mean, you know, this gets passed and then the election takes place. I think long term, the city of Festus is going to be grateful that they would have this investment because, like John says, it's going to bring in revenue. And there's a lot of other cities who are throwing up barriers to making it happen. And ultimately, like John says, this is going to happen. I think the places that flourish are the ones who are going to do it. But the voters have every right to speak their mind, and I agree with John. I think they're being influenced by a larger narrative that's going on in our country and a backlash against AI, which really has nothing to do with this particular development.
Put rules in place, make them work for the local community, and make sure they're clean, make sure they work, and that's the way you do this.
The backlash against President Trump's war in Iran is growing louder among congressional Democrats in the St. Louis region. That certainly includes St. Louis Congressman Wesley Bell, who says the president is moving the goalposts when it comes to what U.S. and Israeli bombings of Iran are supposed to accomplish.
And so in this case, the president rushed in, no plan, no allies, and now is looking for a backdoor out that is literally humiliating to this country and to the men and women who fight so valiantly. And I want to be clear, I support them. What I don't support is haphazardly, recklessly taking this country and our military into war.
Michael, my question is there also less noise in terms of support coming from the Republicans in our area? Ann Wagner, Bob Onder, Josh Hawley, Eric Schmidt. Is it just me, or do you notice them? They're not talking that much.
No, the silence is deafening. This is unpopular. This is the will of one man. I think Wesley Bell summed up where the majority of all Americans are in this. There doesn't appear to be a plan. It's costing us more money. The goalposts are being moved. What goalposts? We've never even had it defined as to what we were doing in this war. I think Congressman Bell speaks on behalf of most of us in the St. Louis area and across the country. And it is interesting, Andy, that there's silence coming from the Republicans. They too probably feel the same.
Is there too much silence from the
Well,
Republican
I don't
side?
think this was done well. We didn't consult our allies. We didn't get, other voices in the room. It was Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump cut this deal. And, the objective was regime change, then it was the nuclear program, then it was degrading their missile system and ruining their Navy. We've done some of those things. We put a dent in the missile system, there's no question about that. No idea what the state of their enriched uranium program is, and we've sunk some ships. So, but before we went in there, the Strait of Hormuz was open and oil was $80 a barrel.
Still to come on Hancock and Kelley, Democrat Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzer called for President Trump's removal from office over Iran, while Republican Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe signs a new juvenile crime bill into law to allow more teenagers to face adult justice when it comes to committing serious crimes.
Hear more, listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelley.
It is a much different scene at the Missouri Capitol these days. Instead of filibustering over social issues, lawmakers are pushing bill after bill to the governor's desk. The governor signed 3 bills over the past week. One of them is seen as critical in fighting juvenile crime in St. Louis. Here's Fox 2 Capitol Bureau reporter Mark Zinn.
The first bill Kehoe signed was Senate Bill 888, which has several provisions related to juvenile offenders, including new guidelines for fingerprinting, juvenile detention, as well as changes to the process for certifying a juvenile as an adult.
A comprehensive package from arresting juveniles through sentencing them and providing some truth in sentencing, not only to the defendants, but also to the victims as well.
Give them the tools and the prosecutors the tools to keep those bad people out of our community.
The Legislative Black Caucus sending out a statement ahead of Tuesday's signing, saying the group has concerns about Senate Bill 888 and feel that it would unfairly impact vulnerable communities, including black youth. Lawmakers are back to work here at the Capitol with 5.5 weeks left in the legislative session. In Jefferson City, I'm Mark Zinn.
John and Michael, police have said a huge issue with crime in St. Louis for decades has been juvenile suspects getting convicted in the juvenile system, but essentially getting off easy, then coming out and reoffending. Is making them face adult justice the answer?
Well, there needs to be some consequences, and what we had before was just a catch and release and expecting a different outcome when we were facilitating the same problem. Look, I think we've got to keep our eye on this to make sure that it doesn't get abused. But this is a step in the right direction to fix a lot of the problems we've had in the city of St. Louis.
John?
If you don't want to go to jail, don't commit crime. I mean, it's pretty much that simple. And we're talking violent crime here committed by juveniles. And yeah, they should pay a penalty for that. And the gangs that are out there, and there are gangs out there in this city, drug gangs, gun gangs, They go intentionally recruit these teenage kids to go commit, car thefts and break-ins and so forth. So yes,
knowing that they won't do real time.
Right.
It's been a week since President Trump posted a profanity-laced threat against Iran on social media on Easter Sunday, mocking the Muslim faith as well. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a likely 2028 presidential candidate, is leading a growing chorus among Democrats, calling for the removal of President Trump from office under the 25th Amendment.
President Trump threatened to wipe out an entire civilization. Let's be honest, there is something genuinely wrong with this man, and the 25th Amendment must be invoked before it's too late. For the sake of our national security, Donald Trump needs to go now.
Now, Michael, that would be something for the president's cabinet to do.
Yep.
The governor knows that's pretty unlikely. So what's he really talking about here?
Well, I think he's raising the alarm that all of us see. You're exactly right. It's the cabinet, the last people. I mean, we've got senators and congresspeople who aren't showing any backbone as a Republican. Surely the people appointed by Donald Trump aren't going to show a backbone. But anybody who can sit and try to justify what we watched over the last several weeks from this president is delusional. Is
this a serious concern, you think, from the governor, or is this politics? He's running for president.
He's grandstanding. Have you not seen these cabinet meetings, Andy? You think half of those people are going to say, you got to go, Donald? No, it's not going to happen. Now, that tweet and others like it are indefensible. And, one could look at that and say, he's nuts.
Coming up on Hancock and Kelley, our quote of the week is First Lady Melania Trump undercutting her husband's claims that the Jeffrey Epstein matter is a hoax. Time to talk about gas taxes. The governor of Indiana has relaxed or suspended the state's 7% gasoline sales tax for 30 days, dropping prices by 15 to 20 cents a gallon there. Illinois Republicans are calling on Governor J.B. Pritzker to follow Indiana's lead. They're calling on a 6-month gas tax holiday. The state taxes on gasoline in Illinois are currently more than 48 cents a gallon, Michael. Close to 30 cents in Illinois. In Missouri. We've asked both governors. They're not really weighing in on whether they would endorse the idea.
It's a slippery slope. Once you start to suspend gas taxes, how long do you do it? And then people want to suspend other taxes. Ultimately, it may make some sense to do it for 30 days. But what would really fix this problem is to never have gotten into it as a result of Donald Trump.
John?
You got to fix the roads. This is the funds. It's dedicated. It's a true use tax. I just don't think it's a good policy. In the short term, look, these gas prices are going to be with us for a while.
Now to our quote of the week. Critics of President Trump have long held that he's doing all he can to divert attention from the Jeffrey Epstein files. The First Lady certainly undercut that a few days ago by addressing the matter in a 5-minute statement. She did not take questions. Epstein was convicted of sex trafficking girls and young women with accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. Files from federal investigations include multiple photos of President Trump and Clinton with Epstein, among others. The First Lady says she may have been at social events with Epstein on occasion and with Maxwell, but beyond that, she denied any connection to him or his crimes, and she called out reports to the contrary, saying, quote, "The false smears from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals looking to cause damage to my good name must stop." Michael, she even called out the Daily Beast and James Carville, saying they've been legally obligated to apologize for spreading baseless lies against her. And she's calling for Epstein victims to have their day during a congressional hearing in that setting.
Yeah, I think that she's right, that they ought to have their hearing, although they could just release the Epstein files that her husband is protecting. I found that statement that the First Lady made earlier this week really strange. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, what about her just doing this when he's trying to deflect, supposedly?
Well, first of all, the president says he didn't know about this. I have my doubts about that. The irony is, a month ago, everybody said they're going to war to divert attention from the Epstein files, and this looks like they're going to the Epstein files to divert attention from the war.
Right, so what does that tell us?
It doesn't tell us much.
No?
But those witness statements are in the DOJ. They don't need to go to Congress. They need to release the witness statements.
Still a bit of a head scratcher. Final thoughts are next. First, drone fox over the Tapawingo Golf Club in Sunset Hills, a fabulous course. Is that John and Michael down there looking for their ball in the water? Final thoughts, Michael Kelley?
Yep, enjoy the golf today. Once they put that green jacket on the winner, summer has begun.
John?
Having a bad week, Andy. Lost my credit card the other day.
Oh, no.
Couldn't find it. Looked for a couple of days. I canceled it. Got home. After I canceled it, I found it. Except now I lost the replacement that I was using. So I'm without a credit card. That's a bad week.
You make me sound like a guy who's got it all together.
Yes.
All right, remember, if you miss any part of this program, it re-airs tonight at 7:30 on St. Louis 11, Channel 11. If it's Sunday in St. Louis, it's Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2.